April 2nd, 2025. Welcome to Talkin Giants presented by SeatGeek. I am Justin Pennick, and today I'm going to be joined by Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports, NFL Network, and the Football 301 podcast. We talked all about quarterbacks. Got to do what we got to do because we got to talk quarterbacks. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. We actually started with Shedeur Sanders because I honestly think that's the most realistic option of where the Giants are going to go if they're going to take a quarterback at 3. Fit in some Jaxon Dart, Jalen Milroe, Kyle McCord, and Tyler Shuck. A little fascinated by Tyler Shuck maybe as a day 3 option. He may not even make it that long. I mean, Nate Tice was talking about maybe he goes round 1 as like the oldest QB prospect since Brandon Weeden. But yeah, excited for that. Excited for you to hear Nate Tice. This could be the first time that he's on this show. I think he's really smart. Former Wisconsin quarterback, former scout as well in the NFL, and he crushes everything football right now. So we talked quarterbacks. The one thing I want to bring up, I mean, obviously we had the announcement video yesterday, and I appreciate everybody that's still here. I appreciate everybody that's sticking around. The one piece of misinformation that I just want to address, and this is really going to be the last time that I plan on really addressing anything. Again, I'm trying to be cordial, professional. I wish nothing but the best for Bobby and everything like that. The one piece of misinformation that I want to address at the beginning, I did sign a contract extension with John Boy Media. I signed a 2-year contract extension with them. I did ask them before signing, can I wait until, because I knew that they were going to go to Bobby next. They weren't going to go to any other creator next. They said they were going to go to Bobby. And I said, can I wait to sign this until you work something out with him? And they told me no. So I thought when I signed that, and I trusted that, hey, I think they're going to work something out because this is a good thing. This is a good thing that we have between us, and I thought that they would. It's just really unfortunate that things did not work out. But that's it. I mean, I'm seeing that's the one thing online that people are talking about, and they're talking about me, and I get people are going to talk and say what they want. But that's the one piece of misinformation that I didn't address and that I see is being talked about, and that is not true. I asked John Boy Media if I could wait. They said no. I mean, that's the way that they want to go about their business. And I signed with thinking that them and Bobby were going to work something out, and they didn't. And again, I want to emphasize, even if Bobby and I were to both leave, they wouldn't give us Talkin Giants. And even if I wanted to, in this present day, give Bobby the channel and everything, John Boy Media owns the IP. So again, I want to emphasize that. I'm going to keep going with Giants stuff. I'm planning, and I'm going to try and get a Giants-only mock draft out this Friday, and then we're going to go forward with draft month. And like I said, and I said in our announcement, we're going to do it a little bit differently. But for now, here's Nate Tice. We broke down quarterbacks. Nate Tice is the man. Make sure you go thank him for being on the show. Appreciate all of you that are still here. Appreciate all of you that are going to come on board even eventually. Here's Nate Tice. All right, I want to welcome onto the show Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports, NFL Network, and hey, he's the host of Football 301 as well. Nate, we had you on our podcast Football Today over on JM Football last year, and I figured I want to kick off draft month by having you on, and we got to pay the bills. We got to talk quarterbacks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. No, I get it. The quarterback stuff. I think even when I joined Yahoo, I was like, it's great. I don't have to worry about quarterback profiles anymore.
Oh,
the first thing they asked me, you're going to do the draft, right? Yeah, I can do a big board. So you're going to do those quarterback profiles? Yeah, I can do them. I can do them. I like doing them, but I didn't realize that was the whole shtick. But no, like you said, it's paying the bills, keeping the lights on. So happy to be here.
Yeah, and especially this year, it's a unique quarterback draft where I feel like as time has gone on, it's been 1A, 1B of Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and then there was I think it was a brief period of time where Shedeur Sanders was really being kind of, brought down, and Cam Ward is clearly the number 1. And now I think as time has gone on, I think Shedeur Sanders, the kind of pendulum has corrected itself where Cam Ward is seen as the number 1, but Shedeur is, I think, getting a little bit more of the respect that he deserves. Like when we were down at the Senior Bowl, people know that we're Giants fans and things like that, and not a lot of people had a lot of positive. Yeah,
they hear the accent, they go Giants, Jets,
but not a lot of people had positive stuff to say about the Giants, and we're even can we get one good thing about Shedeur Sanders? And we didn't even get that. But I think as time has gone on, things have kind of self-corrected itself where Cam Ward's the clear number 1. But I do want to start off with talking about Shedeur Sanders, since in my brain, Cam Ward's a Tennessee Titan. So
Yeah.
let's talk about Shedeur.
That's fair. Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders, 6'1", 212 pounds from the University of Colorado, just turned 23. Efficient distributor as a pocket passer is the term you use that I like the most when it comes to Sanders. I think it's his best path to NFL success, but there are flaws that you don't like more of a pocket passer to have, and things are only going to get harder in the NFL. There's obviously a lot to sift through when watching Sanders, but where are you at with him? Let's break down how he can be a successful NFL quarterback.
Yeah, and what you said, distributor, and I think maybe because of some of, I'm not going to act like I'm an idiot and have my head in the sand about how the hoopla around Colorado the last couple of years and who Shedeur's dad is, but I think that's actually led to some mischaracterization of how he plays. I think people go, "Oh, Deion's son, oh, he's a diva." I'm not calling Shedeur a diva. I'm just saying the takes that have been coming out. Oh, he's going to be this guy that's a wild horse back there, making big plays outside the pocket, throwing sidearm stuff. And he's actually just a very in structure kind of point guard of a quarterback, that a distributor and everything. And when I see a player that plays like that, and I see when I look at the NFL and look at what the top quarterbacks are, and I'm just saying top 5, maybe I'm saying top 12. These guys win from the pocket, but also create plays inside the pocket and outside of the pocket, outside the structure. So I look at traits first and foremost. I think every position you have to look at traits. Film matters. So film, of course, is the biggest chunk of everything, but the traits kind of lead you. How can this guy win in the NFL? And not just at quarterback, this is every position. And so when I watch Shedeur, you mentioned his height, his weight. Him and Cam Ward are both sub 6'2". I think Shedeur is a little skinnier build. He was 197, I think, last spring when they did the official spring measurements, and then obviously put on a little bit of weight. His traits, as far as speed and everything, are kind of just average. He is average speed as a quarterback, average twitch, average burst. He can be an efficient scrambler and can pick up the easy first downs, and I think that could be fine, but there's a reason he didn't run the 40. And I think he kind of runs a little bit like Woody from Toy Story, like limbs kind of going every which way, kind of doesn't have that burst to maybe break contain. And this is not just theory either. This is just watching him in the Big 12 this past year, with not even featuring the fastest defenses you've ever watched in your life. But seeing him getting kind of hawked down by a Kansas State linebacker with a neck roll, that's a little scary to me, as far as maybe the tier threshold of where you're at as a quarterback and being an athlete. And so why I'm bringing that up is you can win without being a great athlete. You can obviously do that. You can win being a pristine operator from the pocket. But if you're taking a guy top 5, top 10, they better be showing that consistently, how they can win from the pocket. Shedeur can do that when the read is exactly what he expects, what he sees. He's a 7-on-7 quarterback. And I mean that in a good way and a bad way. He's comfortable with certain concepts, and if he sees it how he sees it, he can stand there and rip it. I think his arm strength is good when he can stand there and rip it. I just don't think he is a creative thrower, and a very flexible athlete, so he's not always able to unlock that arm strength, if that makes sense. Like, he needs a little bit of a platform to get into his arm strength. And so, okay, so you're from the pocket, you need kind of a clean pocket to get the ball off. All right, so kind of seeing where my argument's going here. The big thing, and I think anyone that's paid attention to Shedeur Sanders' arguments, is his pocket presence as far as drifting back in the pocket. That is a scary habit to have. Not saying that guys in the NFL, Josh Allen still will drift back in the pocket. Jane Daniels, one of the reasons I still have a grain of salt about him is how much he drifts back in the pocket and tries to escape and use escape lanes outside the tackles. You can get away from that time to time in the NFL if you are a freak athlete. Jane Daniels is a freak. Lamar Jackson's a freak. Josh Allen's a freak. Shedeur is not a freak. He is an average athlete. So, kind of putting the math together, the variables together, he has to be better from the pocket before he can even be a kind of pristine pocket passer.
Right.
So I think he is more of a project as an operator. Not saying that he can't do it, but he's more of a project to be an operator from the pocket with average athletic traits. So that's where he has to win like a Kirk Cousins. He has to win like a Teddy Bridgewater. He has to win like an Alex Smith. Alex Smith was actually a very good athlete. Kind of an underrated thing about him. But that's how I envision how he has to win. And this is where I get into maybe my glass half empty argument with Shedeur, is that's a player profile that I'm more comfortable taking on day 2 than in the top 10. The fact that it just doesn't have those overwhelming traits, which is where you want to start with, which is why Anthony Richardson rises up the board. But Richardson still had stuff that he showed from the pocket that you're like, okay, he doesn't take sacks, doesn't all that. If you're taking sacks and it's not all because of the offensive line, it's because of some of your pocket movement. It's because of some of your lack of feel and lack of ability to progress from the pocket. Those are things that are just a little scary that add up. And so I think he needs more work to iron out to become that pristine pocket guy. So long story short, a guy I'm not comfortable in top 5, top 10, but definitely on day 2. And honestly, I'll just spoilers about all the quarterbacks I'm about to talk about. For me, like you started the show, it's Cam Ward, then a teardrop, and then a whole bunch of chunk of guys on day 2. And I just keep calling them day 2 dart throws. To me, this reminds me a lot of the 2019 draft class, whereas Kyler was the number 1 guy, not a perfect number 1 guy, a flawed number 1 guy, but kind of the clear number 1 guy. And then a lot of people you squint to that. That was the Daniel Jones draft. Sorry to remind it. That was also the what's her face? Washington took Dwayne Haskins. Guys that were maybe seen as day 2 going into the process that rose up the ranks. But that's what this draft class is kind of looking like to me.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, it's unfortunate for Shedeur in some areas because of his last name, because you think that, again, like you see him, and sometimes you even see some of the plays that he makes, and like I think he can improvise from within the pocket and then even outside the pockets as well. And you're thinking, oh, but there should be more of that, and there kind of just isn't. And again, you look at the last name and you're like, oh, he's going to be athletic, and it's
right.
That's not necessarily the case. And also, you're talking about a guy that's going to, that the Giants could be taking at pick number 3. And I think that's why, with that overall perception, that's why I'm a little bit more negative on Sanders as opposed to if the Giants were picking 23rd in the draft. And if we're talking about, hey, like, this is a guy that you can get at the back end of the first round that all these teams may pass on. All these teams kind of have their quarterbacks outside of Tennessee. Rodgers is going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers. So what other team is going to really want to try and grab Shedeur? Why we're picking in the teens or even the 20s? I'd be like, hey, I'd be more willing to do that, but we're not. We're picking with the pick number 3. And the thing for me is, in terms of his flaws, at least in my eyes and how I evaluate quarterback play, I put evaluate in quotes, some of his flaws are enough for me to believe that he can't be an above average or even top QB in the league. And I think that's what the expectation is. When you're picking somebody at 3, you should want that guy to be, regardless of the position, eventually an above average or top guy in the league. Correct. If I want to invest in a franchise quarterback, a quarterback that takes a lot of sacks is the biggest red flag for me, because we just went through that with Daniel Jones.
Yes.
Efficient distributor, but sometimes I think he wants too much out of a play. But even if a QB owns a lot of responsibility for sacks or pressures, other elite traits, like you were talking about with Jaden Daniels, that can sway me. If you have the elite arm talent, if you have the elite athleticism, that can sway me. Sanders doesn't have that. So that's what really takes it away, is that even the efficient distributor stuff, keeping plays alive within the pocket, while he's good at that, it's not elite stuff. And I feel like he plays like he wants to be this creator from outside the pocket when he just isn't.
That's it. And he can throw okay on the move, but everything. This is the word I kind of kept coming back to in my article, was elongated. Everything is elongated with him. Yeah. The release, the reads, you rarely see him throwing a teammate open. Where it's just like the guy's closely covered and then he's throwing like a rise ball on an over, or he's throwing a dig right as the guy's wrapping around like the linebacker or something like that. He sees it, the guy clears, and then he throws. And then his release it's not Byron Leftwich, but it's a little longer. He has an elongated release. He needs a full step into his throws. I have numerous clips. I just felt like I was getting too negative in my article, but I had a cut up of clips where he couldn't access any arm strength because he had to throw flat-footed. Watch quarterbacks today in the NFL. How many are guys just stepping up into the ball? You have to throw flat-footed. Yeah. And that's why I became bullish on Cam Ward. I actually thought I underrated him throughout the process until I wrote him up. And I'm like, man, actually, you kind of have better timing and get it better than I gave you credit for. Sanders has to see everything. And there's just that lack of anticipation, that lack of fat cutting. Everything has a little extra fat with him. And again, and we're talking about, he just doesn't have that athletic room for error that some guys have. Like Josh Allen what's sometimes has to wait to see something open. But guess what? Then Josh Allen throws a 70-mile-an-hour
Yep.
fastball, hits and breaks a guy's face mask with it. Like you have more room for error if you're more athletic or if you're bigger or if you're stronger. That's why the NFL is a traits league because you get the room for error and then you work at it. So that's why, again, it's just that the lack of room for error and the fact that he is not a guy that he's still a guy that has a lot of fat in his game. That's what I think we're both on the same page. That's
Yeah.
like, that's a guy you can talk yourself into at 27 that you trade back up for. Teddy Bridgewater traded back up for last pick in the first round. Kirk Cousins was a fourth rounder. Those are probably the two names that come to mind for Shedeur. Pick 32 in a fourth rounder, not pick 2, pick 3, pick 4.
Yeah.
Like, Shedeur has been talked about.
Yeah, the term that I've been going back to myself, it's just that things get harder in the NFL. And I think things are only going to get harder for Shedeur Sanders in the NFL, especially when you talked about how things are so elongated. Things don't get slower in the NFL; they get faster in the NFL, and everybody knows that. I want to go to scheme fit for a second, because we're familiar with Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur was the OC, was the OC over there, and what Shurmur did a lot of high to low reads, and I think that's one of the reasons why Daniel Jones had a lot of success in 2019, is because I think Shurmur really simplified things for Daniel Jones. A lot of high to low reads. And I think Shedeur
glance routes, if I remember, a lot of like skinny posts or short posts.
Yeah, I mean, Darius Slayton against the Vikings and things like that. 2019, when he caught 12, 9 touchdown passes.
The immortal Darius Slayton.
Yeah, he's still here, and I love it. I don't want him to go anywhere. Him and Tom and Vito are never going to go
anywhere. All the
anywhere.
national guys are always like, man. If Slayton was with another team, no offense, but it was like, man, Slayton is just like, everyone likes Darius Slayton.
Oh, we say the same thing. It's Stockholm syndrome.
So high.
It's Stockholm syndrome.
Things are out.
I thought he hated the front office. I'm like, why are you back, bro? Go catch balls from Justin Herbert.
Right.
But anyway, scheme fit. Pat Shurmur. We know that that he simplified things for Daniel Jones, and maybe. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on what he did with Shedeur Sanders too. But ironically enough, if Cam Ward doesn't exist, let's just say, and Shedeur Sanders is the QB1 of this draft class, I actually think Brian Callahan and Kevin Stefanski would be a decent kind of fit for Shedeur Sanders, especially with Stefanski. I mean, you talked about Bridgewater, who I know Bridgewater was Bridgewater was with them in 2017, but he didn't really play any games, but Kirk Cousins is the better connection where Kevin Stefanski had success with a pocket passer. Yeah. And really, Kevin Stefanski, any success that he's had with the quarterback, they've been more or less these pocket passers. The corpse of Joe Flacco a couple years ago. Jameis Winston is still more of a quote-unquote pocket passer, right? So I actually think, in Callahan, I think, distributes the ball very quickly. That's what he did with Joe Burrow. Kind of snap and get the ball out of your hands because you have a bad offensive line, right? So I actually think like Sanders fit-wise may fit better with the front two teams in this draft. But then you have Brian Daboll, who for years has talked about, we want to throw the ball down the field. We want to be explosive. I mean, that's all you hear them talk about now, Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. So do you think Sanders could be a scheme fit for Brian Daboll? And how do you view that kind of transition that Sanders is going to have to go from, that Shurmur offense possibly into a Daboll offense?
It was really I used the term 7-on-7 quarterback earlier, and that's what that offense at Colorado felt like, even though Shurmur has NFL experience, everything was spread out. They rarely attached a tight end, which I think is what hindered their offense more than anything. And I think this was the marching orders that they maybe got from above Shurmur to maybe if you want to talk about, in video games, you're trying to pad your stats at the end of the games.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've never seen a team like Colorado try and pad stats like they did last year. It was unbelievable.
Oh, the end of the bowl game. I think it was the end of the bowl game against BYU. I'm like, we're still really going for it, huh?
They were in a 4-minute drill, and I'm trying to remember the game now. Oh man, I wish I did. But they were in a 4-minute drill. They should be burning the clock. They're up 8 or up 7. And they chucked the ball 3 straight times, and it was all ISO shots to Travis Hunter. So I was like, "You guys are," I know exactly what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, the boss man wants it. But when I was watching that offense, it was that they spread it out. They try to make it look, it's very pass heavy. I didn't think the offensive line was terrible. Actually, I thought it was below average, but it was like a typical FBS offensive line. Is that it was that kind of point shoot. They did a lot of half field read stuff. Shermer did, meaning that if it's too high, you go to this side. If it's single high, you go to this side. A lot of 2x2 concepts with that. So that's where we saw a lot of those high lows, the little they call it wrap, which is the little hitch and whipper out, and then the dig behind it. They ran it 500 times a game. It's a classic day one concept. But that also was kind of one of those things where I know Shermer's got more in his bag. And that's also, is like, is this all they can handle? Because I actually thought the Colorado receivers were pretty sloppy with some of their rules. That's actually one of the negatives I have with Travis Hunter. Is he's an incredible athlete, don't get me wrong, incredible ball skills, but like his receiver route running is so sloppy and so below expectation that that's a grain of salt with him. But what you brought up with Stefanski's offenses, or that Shermer offense, but really an offense that is, God, I wouldn't like him in an RPO heavy offense. Sanders, I would not, because he has such a long motion.
Yeah.
You need a quick in the NFL, you need a quick motion to get that off. So Dable's best offenses in Buffalo were a lot of RPOs. His best offense with Daniel Jones was bootlegs and slot choice routes to the receiver. Now I'm blanking. It's not Slayton. It's the guy that they signed from Buffalo. Now I'm blanking on his
Isaiah
name.
Hodgins.
Isaiah Hodgins, the slot route king in 2021. So like the choice route king, I should say. But that's kind of what I picture with that offense. Could Shedeur do those things? Bootleg? Yeah, he can't really throw well on the move to the left because he's not flexible. He's better to the right throwing on the move. And also that offense with the choice routes, that's a lot of timing stuff. And Jones was okay with it because it was point shoot. I just think Sanders is so elongated that kind of timing stuff I have issues with finding. So stuff to me that works the best is the high-low stuff, off play action where it's more progression reads, where it's post to over to dig, where he can stand there and go through it as opposed to shortcut a read and make a quick decision right away. So I guess I know you already kind of nailed it. I'm just talking here. But the Stefanski and the Browns are actually probably the best scheme fit, but I don't like him at number 2. Like it would be maybe in round 2 if they took him, then that would make a lot more sense to me. But it is more of that type of traditional NFL offense, maybe like what the Cowboys did under Linehan and Kellen Moore with Dak Prescott, that type of offense. So kind of a traditional NFL offense, kind of what maybe Harbaugh does with Greg Roman and that style offense. Not using any QB run game with Shedeur, but just as far as has a good run game around him, and then his offensive style is more intermediate passing, nothing really far and nothing quick game. Right. But again, all these disclaimers I'm bringing up is also part of the argument against Sanders, that I'm not going like, he can fit in any offense. Like Drake May, any offense. I could see him in any offense. Caleb Williams could see him in any offense. They can make it work. Shedeur, it's very limited where I think his success could come from.
All right, before we keep going and talking with Nate Tice, I got to talk to you about SeatGeek, because the MLB season, it's finally here. And with SeatGeek being MLB's official ticket marketplace, your tickets are fully guaranteed and instantly fulfilled in your account after purchase. That is huge. There's no waiting. And with our partners at SeatGeek, you can now get 10% off any tickets with code GIANTS2025 with over 28 million downloads. SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app in the world. They've been loyal to Talkin Giants. They've been here for a long time. Our presenting sponsor, I think, for like the last 3 years, which is crazy. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports festivals, and more. Right now, you get tickets to baseball games, NBA and NHL, not to mention tons of concerts and other events as well. And each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. Just look at the green dots, because green means good and red means bad. And you know that we came through for you guys. You can use code GIANTS2025 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code GIANTS2025. Let's keep talking with Nate Tice. It's funny that you brought up Kellen Moore, because I want to do a first round mock on JM Football, and thinking about, okay, well, I'm a Giants fan, and maybe I prefer to take Travis Hunter. And then I'm like, okay, well, what Shedeur Sanders is going to go in the first round. I think he's going to.
There's too much smoke.
I think the Saints and Kellen Moore could even be a nice fit. And that's a guy where he doesn't have to play right away. You can kind of sit, learn, develop. You have the veteran in Carr. I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking to myself, that's actually a not too bad fit. So I'm actually glad that you brought up Kellen Moore, because I've been thinking about that.
I think they're the sneaky Jaxon Dart team.
The sneaky Jaxon Dart team. Okay.
The Saints are.
Okay.
I'm just trying to align some things. There's a lot of Jaxon Dart hype, and I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. So that I don't know. That's one where I'm just kind of looking at. It's like who's got a lot of friends in the
Okay.
football media world. Kellen Moore does. So I'm just trying to piece some things together
Yeah.
with where the Jaxon Dart hype's coming from. And so I don't know. The Saints are kind of my sneaky matchup there.
Yeah.
I know the quarterback coach there, Scott Tolzien. I backed him up at Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and I should really be hitting him up. But I really respect the guys going in through the process because it's like they don't want to talk
Yeah.
about this.
Well, I
We'll
also,
talk in May. We'll talk in May.
yeah, I also don't, a lot of these teams probably don't even know what they're going to do yet. It's probably
Especially assistant coaches. Yeah.
right.
No
Right.
idea.
It's probably, I start to open my eyes. I kind of roll my eyes at a lot of the reports that come out because so many of them come out and so many of them are different. I start to open my eyes Monday, Tuesday before the draft. It's like, all right, when we start to hear stuff, then I'll pay attention to it. But I almost feel like, especially being like a person that quote unquote covers a team and does this, and it's like I'm just gonna ignore and not react to any rumor, even though if I were to easily quote tweet this with some reaction, it would do well.
Anyway. Give me some dopamine. We'll be good.
Yeah, but I refuse to do it. I refuse to do it.
You're right in thinking that teams don't even have their final meetings until April.
No.
So you're absolutely right. It's more teams and people and agents and execs and coaches. Yeah. It's information hunting.
Yeah.
That's what teams are doing right now. They're information hunting.
Now, even though this guy's more fun, we don't have to spend as much time on him because I think he's a Tennessee Titan. Cam Ward, I think he's, again, clear QB1. I think he's clearly a Tennessee Titan. I think based off of what they've done this offseason, which I think is a good thing, by the way, of trying to protect a young quarterback. Even though, hey, a Kevin Zeitler may not make sense for a team that may go out and win 6 games next year. Well, it makes sense when you want to protect Cam Ward, right? Different arm slots, quick release, natural, easy athleticism. Cam Ward has the majority of the traits you want if you were to craft the above average difference maker modern day QB. It's a run on word, but I think if you want to
bunch of hyphens in there.
Bunch of hyphens. The above average difference maker modern day quarterback without calling every QB prospect that's good elite. I think that's a goal that a team should want to reach. So creator is the term you came up when it comes to with Cam Ward. I'm going to add on to it, and I'm pretty positive that Yahoo Sports wouldn't love this term. But how about bipolar creator? Because one play Cam Ward will look like he's the man, and then the next you want to rip your hair out because of decisions that he makes. Do you think that's a fair assessment? And tell me where you're at with Cam Ward.
Yeah, he definitely, I would say, I'll start with my biggest negative on him is that he has some heat check moments. He's pulling up from 35 feet and launching that three and with a guy in his face. He's definitely going to be trying those things. And my bullish argument on that is I'd much rather have a quarterback I'm trying to rein back in and go like, all right, we can't get away with that than, hey, you got to try something here. You got to push the ball. Like even a guy that I'm higher on the most, Riley Leonard, as another 3rd round, 4th round type. It's like, please push the ball. Please push the ball. Please throw down the field. I need you to throw a digger out here. But no, with Cam is one of these guys throughout the process. I have been like, I liked him, but didn't love him. And I kept using that. I like him, but I don't love him. I like him, but I don't love him. And then I wrote my article with Yahoo last month. And that through that, I usually watch 6 to 8 games, depending on how many I can get my hands on. And started really charting him, watching him. And he had more feel for structure than I gave him credit for until I studied him. And that's why I became more of a fan. Was, yes, the highlights, and this is what happened with Caleb last year with Williams, is the highlights are going to grab the scrambling, the run around, the trick shots. That's what the highlights are going to be. But the meat of his resume, what you're watching down to down, this is why you watch the film stuff, is this guy understands timing way more than you think he would. He is a jazz player that knows how to read sheet music. And that actually is what kind of really was like, I like you more than I thought. I would say love all the way, but I like you, 5th grader style.
Yeah.
I like you, and it was the RPO arm slot stuff. He only had 4 batted balls this year. Anyone that throws sidearm, I'm going to be like, all right, how many balls you get batted down? You're 6'1" and change and you throw sidearm, only 4 batted balls this entire year. The creativity of the arm slot unlocks new angles to throw from the pocket, not just the trick shots outside the pocket. There's a throw against Syracuse that's one of my favorites. 3rd down, double mug pressure, 2 guys over the A gap, run right at him. He's got a guy coming down the barrel. He throws around him, almost submarine style, and hits the over route. I think the guy dropped it or is just out, like hits his fingertips. It goes right there. he unlocked a throw. A lot of guys, it wouldn't even be a possibility. He is it's, I haven't used this analogy before, but it just kind of came to me. But it's, like in baseball, they used to, with fielding, they would really kind of go, well, a guy has a lot of errors, but he was able to get to a lot of balls.
Yep.
And that's why he got errors. And then now we have much better metrics to look at fielding and everything. That's what Cam Ward feels like. 'Cause yeah, you made a mistake there, but the fact that he even was able to try that is what makes him exciting. Don't think he has elite arm. I think his arm's good. He's at the good threshold to me. I think people got to really know what elite arm is in the NFL. Elite is like, you guys see what these top dudes are doing. Cam Ward's a step down from that for me, much like Kyler. Good arm, not extremely elite, amazing, anything like that. But the arm slot changing, a good enough athlete, again, not elite, but strong, and his balance is really interesting how he's able to break out tackles and then get rid of the ball. The high end comparison I've had for him is Steve McNair, because they have the same build, same creation. McNair had a little bit more tools, a little faster, a little bit better arm, but still his kind of play style is very similar to me and some of the creation and stuff. But I end up really coming around on Ward because of just the package of, he knows the pocket better, or feel from the pocket is better than I think I even gave him credit for until I studied him. And his sense of timing is really good, he's throwing funky because he's trying to stay on time, which I think is a trait that you want from your quarterbacks, because that's one of those underlying things that we don't realize how much has to get taught in a lot of guys and quarterbacks. And he already displays it. And he's a wing T quarterback in high school. He's bounced around air raid colleges. It's just a fun makeup of things. And once it kind of was all said and done, I'm like, I really liked him. I ended up like, he's a worthy number one pick. I would have had him below Daniels last year, but probably above McCarthy. When it all came down to it. And I liked McCarthy too.
Yeah.
But but still, yeah, he's QB4, QB5 last year. Guess what? That's a top 15 pick. Yeah. That's a top 10 pick.
6 of them taken in the first round last year. So
I know it's not a knock. It's everyone, and I think that's what's happened. I think everyone got beat over the head that, oh, this is a bad quarterback class. This is a bad quarterback class. It's like, he is the best of a bad bunch, I would call.
Yeah.
But he's a worthy guy to be selected QB1 and to be the number one pick. That's kind of the argument I've come with Cam Ward.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I watched 2 games, over Thanksgiving, our little mini Thanksgiving break. Giants playing on Thanksgiving, so I'm like, all right, let me. I actually went to Ohio State, Michigan, where I saw the rise of Wink Martindale. I was really rooting for him there. I watched a Virginia Tech game where
yeah. Saw a little up and down in that game.
Oh so my God.
That's a good game to watch.
It's an interesting game to watch.
Yeah. No, that's like, if you want the experience about Cam Ward, that is the best game to watch. So I'm glad you watched that one.
Yeah. So I mean, that was like my first or second one, and I'm like, oh my fucking God. I was like, this is crazy. It's like, I don't, I'm not like a film guy. I don't have I'm like, I'm going to clip up everything and use everything. But, I'm making a folder of all the guys that I watch. It's like, oh, maybe I'll do a short on this, but that. I think there were like 17 plays from that game where I'm like, well, I can't use all of these in a short. But still, like 17 plays where I'm like, this was either the best thing that I've ever seen or some of the worst stuff that I've ever seen.
Yep.
But creator, when you first read that term with Cam Ward, again, you want to think of the fun stuff where it's outside the pocket and the deep balls and all that kind of stuff and the improving. But how I think you laid it out, and again, I want to emphasize this, and I think Caleb got a very similar thing. I would say this is a lesser extent, but give Cam Ward the credit for creating from within the pocket. It's not just the other stuff. It's not just when we're holding onto the ball for longer than 2.5, 3 seconds. And then we create from there, because I think that's typically the association when we hear that word and we give that phrase and that term to or that trait to a quarterback. That's the stuff that we try to associate with. But I even think of, like, this is what Matthew Stafford does best, as I think he creates from within the pocket with different arm slots and stuff that isn't there. It's like there's that throw's not there, and then at the last second, because of the arm slot, because of the velocity, or I guess even the defender not even expecting the ball to come that way, boom, a receiver breaks free, and it's a successful play. And you would never think, if you were to freeze frame it, this is no way this is a successful play and a successful throw. So again, I want to emphasize that Cam Ward, creator from within the pocket, not just the fun stuff that you typically associate, your modern day NFL quarterback to do and be.
And I think, and some have gotten where it's like, oh, it's a prerequisite. These guys have to be great athletes and scramblers and anything. It's like, yeah, you want that. But when we're just talking about athletic ability, it's more just what you can unlock as a thrower. Like you have to win from the pocket first. Getting all the outside the pocket stuff is bonus. And but again, I shouldn't actually say it's a bonus. It's something you do need as well, unless you're CJ Stroud. But the thing with Stroud's still a good athlete.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to access it. He doesn't want to win that way until watch what happened in the playoffs last year. All of a sudden he doubled his scramble rate because he's like, guess what? It's game time. We got to do this. You have to be able to access both. But I think some people just misconstrue that it's like, oh, it's only about the creation, or outside the pocket, I should say. No, you have to win from the pocket. And it's just not always going to be the pretty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hitch. Throw that happens once a game, like twice a game, maybe. And that's even with good. I mean, unless you're the Eagles, and like then Jalen Hurts can just do it 30 times a game, and we call him a great quarterback. But it's just. I know I'm in safe space here on a Giants pod. I could say that, but it's just with all these other guys. They have. I'm glad you brought up Stafford. Cam Ward throws like Stafford. Stafford's arm is one of the greatest we've ever seen. A true elite arm. Cam's is more good. But still, that what you just brought up, the access and be able to throw it sidearm and create new throwing angles, like that is creativity from the pocket. So I'm glad you emphasized that. Now
you brought up this stat. I'm gonna read this exact stat that you brought up in your article. Or this is something that I have besides the the boneheaded stuff, and again like the bipolarness of Cam Ward, where it's like I honestly said there was at one point, Nate, before I asked this. I said at one point it was 45% Jameis Winston, 45% Drew Lock, 10% Lamar Jackson. I'm willing to bump that 10% up a little bit, and maybe remove Drew Lock from the situation. Little more like Jameis, and a little more like we could see Jameis someplace, and we could see Lamar on some others. But another kind of red flag with Cam, and you brought this up in your article again. Ward finished 2024 with 42 passes outside the numbers that traveled 20 or more air yards, completed 13 such passes, 31% completion rate ranked 56 out of 81 qualifying FBS quarterbacks, and then Ward's success rate on such throws is ranked 62nd. So kind of surprising to me, somebody that does drive the ball so well towards the middle part of the field, and somebody that does throw, has a good arm. Again, not elite, not great, but it's still good. Kind of surprised me that kind of struggled throwing outside the numbers and deep. Do you think that's a Miami thing, maybe a personnel thing? What's your take on that and how that can translate to the NFL?
Yeah, it's funny too, because even when he throws, you just talk about driving the ball, and he can drive the ball and he's willing to. And when he throws a post, which is in between the numbers or in between the hashes, good. Like I had no qualms, but I just kept noticing when I was watching film. Usually I just use the stats usually to emphasize what I'm seeing on film, but it's like rather than just go, trust me, bro. Like here's like actually like a number you guys can point at. So I'm glad you brought it up, is when he was throwing go balls, so outside, when he was throwing slot fades, which all end up in that same area. So out 20 or more yards outside, usually 25 to 30. That's usually the throw point. Is I think some of the sidearm throwing style and the small hands. This is another negative. He has 9-inch hands. That is right at the mark. Honestly, if you're sub 9, it's like we gotta look at another position. It's just because it's a fact, because of fumbles and everything. So I think the 9-inch hands and the sidearm throwing style, the ball comes off his pinky when he throws it deep. So those fade on him. And so when you have to throw a go, people think throwing a go is just you throw it up like 500 and throw it as high as you can. You're throwing those like a looping liner to right center or left center field, like a baseball hit. It's like it loops up, so you have to throw it touch and power. And I think when his throwing style it gets away from him. Like I think it truly, because it's not even like ones where it's like, oh, it comes up short, or that it just fades out of bounds. Like he doesn't even foul ball. Guy doesn't even have a chance at it. So that I think is more of a throwing style thing. It can get better because I think deep balls are more of a receiver stat in the NFL than even a quarterback stat, or at least more. It's an equal part of the pie. So I think, a good receiver can help them out. I don't know if Tennessee has that, but Calvin Ridley is a little different than that. But I think that is a negative that will stick with him just because of throwing style, and just because his hands are going to get bigger, so he can't just engulf the ball and do it. If you ever look, why is Russell Wilson at 5'10", 5'11", such a good deep ball thrower? He has 10.5-inch hands or 10 and a quarter inch hands. He can just engulf the football and just chuck it. So I think that's why that's going to happen. And I think that is going to be a thing that kind of follows him in the NFL. But that's why he's not what I consider a true elite blue chip or purple chip quarterback prospect. I consider him a good one because he has little blemishes like that.
Yeah. Enjoy Tennessee. And that's
I agree with you.
Work.
They're doing some smart things. Zeitler is a good signing. Even if Dan Moore is just above average, it's like that's gonna you're getting your best 5 out there, and now all their 5s are B minuses or better. That's a great situation for a rookie quarterback. Their defense is gonna be good. I think their D line kicks ass. Calvin Ridley's not bad. They need probably one more weapon to make I don't know, but it's a pretty good ecosystem. That's why I'm buying some Titan stock, even if I only think they win 6-7 games.
Yeah.
I do think it's gonna be a fun year for them.
Yeah, I agree. We'll move on to the other ones, other quarterbacks. Jaxon Dart. Again, don't have to spend as much time on some of these guys, but figured I might as well. Well, or how about this? Even before we get to some of the other guys like Jaxon Dart.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy on taking quarterbacks outside of the first round? Like, I think last year, what the Saints did with Spencer Rattler was perfect, in a draft where 6 quarterbacks go in the first round. Clearly that's not happening this year, so I think the desperation for QB needy teams, hey, you may even see the Giants take one at 3, that's not what his proper grade should be, right? I am one that day 3, with my day 3 picks, I am way more open to taking on a project because those day 3 picks are projects anyway. But if you are a team that I want to take Jalen Milroe with the 99th pick, I don't know, maybe you should have had the confidence to take him at 3 if you think especially if you're taking somebody with the overall intention that he could be a franchise guy. So I don't know. I'm kind of against it on day 2, a little bit more open to it on day 3. What's your philosophy on taking guys outside of the first round?
It's quarterbacks are always going to get inflated, a half round or a full round. Even it might be even more at this point. Last year's draft class is I'm still trying to reconcile with it with some, Bo Nix. Yeah, he had a good rookie year, but there's nothing about his prospect profile that said top 15 pick. And I don't care what anyone says, or even top 20 pick. But so guys are going to get inflated. Round 1 is going to be the contract argument, getting that 5th year. And so that's why some guys that maybe you see as day 2 get inflated because of contract. That to me sometimes is putting the cart before the horse, because as soon as you put a guy 1 next to his name, even if it's 1.32, first round quarterback, that means he's the guy, right? That he's the guy, right? And so what if the guy shows up and he sucks? And then it's like, oh God, now we anointed him. And you get into the Paxton Lynch situation. So to answer your question though, is I think round 2 quarterbacks are kind of dead. Because I think the NFL has kind of come to the same conclusion, was that, okay, we either take a guy in round 1, but if you take a guy round 2, you're anointing him anyways. You're Drew Locking it. You're Derek Carring it. There's a whole bunch of examples of guys, good or bad. Andy Dalton, but that was yesteryear. That was 10 years ago when Derek Carr got selected in round 2. So it's become that's become the quarterback wasteland. And I think round 3 has become we kind of like this guy on day 3, but others might too. So we should take him now. And that's what round 3 has become kind of do I agree with it always? No, but I understand desperation, having to get a guy before he actually does. I might have 110 on our board, but we're picking 88 and we don't pick again until 140.
Right.
All right. Well, we got to take, so those kind of things don't always add up, but that's why it becomes, I keep coming back to shoot the Pickett draft, which was I had Desmond Ridder as my QB1 in that class. And I was I wouldn't take him until round 2. And I remember talking to people and they were like, well, no one takes quarterbacks in round 2. So I was like, all right, well, I don't know, round 1. And then it went Pickett round 1. And then 5 guys round 3, because that's where everyone had him as round 3, round 4 guys. All right, we'll take him round 3. Around Matt Corral, Panthers traded up to make sure they can get him in round 3. So maybe a long-winded way to answer your question is I think round 3 has become the new comfort zone of where guys go. Do I always agree with the guys that go there? No, but I think we should strap in, because I think a lot of the quarterbacks in this class are going to go round 3.
Yeah,
because I think of the same thing. So I think I think guys that I even consider round 4, like Jaxon Dart, I would with the half round inflation, that's the end of round 3, the second half of round 3. And that's just become my comfort zone too. I think after pick 65, that's the new tier 2 quarterback range. And then the Spencer Rattler thing, I agree with. Like, they got him in the perfect spot, but that was probably some character stuff too. That,
yeah,
I've heard though. I've heard he's really matured. Which is really not even just from Scotty, but from other people, which is really kind of cool about Rattler.
Yeah, I mean, it's this year that I'm probably more open to it than I've ever been before. Number one, because of the spot that the Giants are in. Number two, because hey, Jalen Milroe is kind of fun in some ways. Kyle McCord, you see some of the anticipatory throws. It's like, oh, that's fun. And
yeah.
Tyler Shuck. I mean, you see the
Shuck, man.
You see the throws that he makes, and he's old, and he throws away the ball because he doesn't want to get hit. Never wants to get hit because he doesn't want to break his collarbone for the 10th time. But I mean, some of these guys are fun, and including Dart. Dart's in that mix too. If he falls out of round 1 and then he takes a little bit of a nosedive, like you said, because that's just the approach of things. So
it is Dart. There's just so much smoke about Dart that I think that he is going to go round 1, even though if I wholeheartedly do not agree with it. He's one. It's like, I understand he's got some tools. He does a lot of things. He does some things well, but it's like, am I watching? I watch more games of Jaxon Dart probably than anybody else, just to make sure. I was like, am I being the asshole here?
Well, it's a hard evaluation. It really is hard because
of that
Lane Kiffin,
offense, man.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a money. I kept calling it a money play offense because that's what it is. They run 5 plays. They dress it up like crazy, which credit to them. They're there to win in football games. They're not there to, like, they can say we're going to groom you for the NFL, but winning football games brings you eyeballs.
Right.
So you can see Dart's limited in the scope of how he progresses. I always think he's a half hair late too, Mike Sanders, where it's like he takes that one extra Mississippi before he pulls the trigger, which is scary to me because windows shut tight in the NFL. You don't even get a Mississippi. You get one, and then the window closes.
Yep.
And he's a good athlete, good arm. Again, not elite in either category, lacks anticipation, kind of has some dumb plays as well. So yeah, that's another. Well, I'm just going to keep calling the day 2 grab bag is Jaxon Dart to me.
I think I saw this was absolutely absurd. 17 yards averaged up to target when he's under pressure.
Sounds right.
Absurd.
Absurd. Because he's not. Because when you're like in the NFL, I'm sorry, in college, a lot of guys, you're under pressure, you're throwing go balls. You're throwing go balls or you're throwing something short. And what you want to see, do guys make and they beat the pressure with hard throws. And hard throws to me are throws over the middle, throws to the outside, intermediate throws to the outside. Tyler Shuck has, and I'm with you, he's going to be 26. Dude can spin it. But again, he's a round 3, day 2 grab bag guy for me. But Shuck is allergic to getting sacked probably because of the injuries. But there's ones where he's throwing like a comeback route well early before he gets hit. And that's a real NFL throw to me. That's how you have to win, is you throw it so early before the pressure gets there. And it's like, yeah, well, the guy's not breaking on his route, but it's like, guess that's what the NFL is. You have to throw it so early. And Dart, to me, it's like, yeah, he's got an arm. Oh, we'll work with his anticipation. It's like, I'd much rather him. I have to see it. Yeah. Like, it's otherwise this is just theory. It's like you're just chalking up that your coach can fix it and Lane Kiffin couldn't in a couple of years. Like, I don't know, that is hubris to me. So from some quarterback coaches and some personnel guys that they think some stuff like anticipation and everything, they can just teach it. And it's like, well, you got to at least see it.
Yeah.
Like, you got to see that he can throw it that way. So that's why I have some concerns with Dart. Yeah,
streaky and inconsistent is the phrase that comes to mind. And then I think even what you wrote is cleanliness. Like that's a guy that, if he's gonna thrive, he needs things to be clean. He needs things to kind of be open and available.
I'm glad that's stuck.
Yeah.
Because I was like, cleanliness might be the word.
Yeah. That type of stuff just doesn't happen a ton in the NFL unless you're Kevin O'Connell.
or whoever is the Eagles quarterback.
Yeah.
That's it. Those are the cleanest situations you'll get in. Yeah.
All right, we'll finish off with this. Like I said, any other QBs that you're intrigued by? Like, the 3 for me are Milroe, McCord, and Shuck. Like, I probably have watched Shuck a little bit more than the other 2. Milroe just because he's at Alabama and Alabama's on national television every weekend. Unfortunate to see how he kind of regressed as a thrower this year. At least that's my perception. So any one of those 3 or anybody else that you're intrigued by it. We're still in early April. There's still more guys to watch and everything like that. But
Oh no, I'm all the way through them. No, those three are three guys I'm interested for wildly different reasons. Shuck has a lot of throwing talent. He really does.
yeah,
But that's the difference between just what you see on tape and a player profile. There's tape, and then there's, like, I even said this in my article. It's like, I wish I could, if this guy was 22, 23, okay, we can talk about him in the back half of the first round. I could see him squeezing at 28, 27, somewhere in that end of first, but he's not. He's about 26.
yeah,
And he just had his seventh year in college and he's had injuries. And I get it. It's not soft tissue or anything, but he still had injuries. Like, so you have to be realistic about it. But dude doesn't take sacks and he can spin it. He can throw guys open. He could throw all three levels. I at the very least, I could see him being a good backup at the high end backup that like can maybe be a spot starter somewhere in the right spot. I know teams like him because it's just undeniable. He makes a couple throws a game that some of these other guys in this class don't.
right.
But then you're also, again, glass half empty is, well, he should because he's in his seventh year of college,
Right.
so it's, you got to be like, you got to gauge that. But he is one that I'm interested in. I've become more bullish on throughout the process, but just got to be realistic. Milroe is, I struggle with. I am a big believer in being an athlete at quarterback. I grew up with freaking Dante Culpepper. I'm like, just not just because he's the end all be all. I just see what the top guys are right now, and that's what I chase.
Yeah.
I think that's the dragon you have to chase to find a top guy. The thing is, you mentioned it, the first half of this year, he was one of the most improved players in college football. Him and Drew Aller from Penn State. Milroe dropped off a cliff as soon as Halloween hit. It was, oh my God, trick or treat Jalen Milroe. And it was watching him, I struggle because I see he is an elite athlete. I wouldn't even say, I would go past excellent, an elite athlete. Burst, speed, strength. He's got a hose of an arm. He just doesn't understand how to play quarterback. And I that's why I struggle with him, is he doesn't have a real feel. He's very point and shoot. If this is open, great. If there's anything that goes off schedule or doesn't look how he thinks it's going to look, hold on to your head. And I just that natural feel for playing the position. And he seems like a great dude. He seems tough, all that stuff. There's also just like little things I watched. And this is just an anecdotal thing. You just mentioned Alabama was on TV 100 times. How many times have you seen Jalen Milroe throw the ball past the line of scrimmage when he is past the line of scrimmage and gets flagged? I've counted six. Six times he has been flagged in 2 years for getting past the line of scrimmage and throwing the ball. Most guys get flagged maybe once in their entire career off something. That, I know this is just kind of anecdotal stuff, but that just to me is like a little bit of like a red flag, like feel.
Yeah.
It's like, how, if you get flagged for that once, okay, whatever. All right, I'm going to try it again. I'm a good athlete, so I'm going to be pushing the limit. Learn something, from that, learn how to play it. So he just has a lot of red flags. I've seen people compare him to Anthony Richardson. I thought Anthony had so much better pocket feel, and didn't take sacks, also would whip that ball over the middle. Milroe's kind of just got more red flags to me. I'm glad he brought McCord because dude understands what he is, and that's a good and bad thing. He knows he doesn't have the greatest tools in the world. He knows he doesn't have this and that. But he understands that. So he gets rid of the ball quick. He understands timing. He understands anticipation. So it's like one of these where it's like, can I put you in Milroe's body and you have the greatest quarterback ever?
Hello.
Like,
Hello.
it'd be amazing. Yeah, I know. So that's like kind of like what McCord's a day 3 guy to me, clearly. Milroe, though, you could argue because of the athletics, and I know teams interviewed him and loved him because he's supposed to be just a great kid.
Yeah.
But that's just, you have to be realistic what you see on film, and he's playing at a big program where he's gotten proper coaching, and that also you have to give some of these coaches some credit about what they're getting out of the guys. But the guy, and I haven't shut up about him in 9 months, is the guy. Another guy that I wouldn't take until round 3 is Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. Just because I might be the only person that has Riley Leonard stock, but I do, and I'm holding on to it. Damn it! I think he's an excellent athlete. I think he's got good size. He's a little skinny at the Senior Bowl, probably because he just played 20 freaking games. I just think that he is better feel from the pocket and better accuracy than he's gotten credit for. I thought Notre Dame's receivers were garbage. Like his best receiver was a part-time lacrosse player and a tight end off an ACL, and a couple of the biggest idiots I've ever watched in college football. I watched so much Notre Dame this year, which was just like God. Just if I like a quarterback, I'll watch so much of that game, those teams' games throughout the year. I watched so much North Carolina, USC, and LSU last or 2 years ago. I was like, I watched more North Carolina than anybody because of Drake May. But watching watching Leonard is just, I think I just don't understand how people don't love his athleticism, his competitiveness. I know he's not going to win that way, like freaking running it 15 times, 20 times. But I think the tools and the feel from the pocket is what gets me excited about him. I think he has a better understanding of some creativity. It's not crazy. He doesn't push the ball, which is scary to me, but that's also a can't or won't argument. Is it because the receivers were garbage and you couldn't even trust them to run a post route? Or is it because you just don't want to throw those and you can't trust your arm? So that's something you have to figure out, and the coaches, it's up to them. But that's one guy I just like as a high-end backup, and I think there's just more to him than maybe he's getting credit for. The package of stuff I like.
Nate?
Justin? Dude, I love your step video, by the way. What was it, the running back?
Oh, the Pacheco. Yeah.
Oh my God, because you nailed it.
I think that just goes to show how ineffective the drill is. If I'm able to replicate it as...
But you're a good athlete. I will say, I've watched some warehouse games. You're a good athlete. Listen, I don't think you get enough credit for how good of an athlete you are.
I grew up as an offensive lineman up until my sophomore year of high school, and then I became a state champion bowler.
Seriously?
Yes, took that same competitiveness that I had in football, and I brought it to a bowling alley. I almost got to a fight with somebody from Hudson Catholic. It's a whole story. But something that I always...
Just Pete Webb's illegitimate son.
Yes. Something that I always kept with me is my fast twitch muscle fibers. And I look really good in shorts. That was the thing that I looked I just was never aggressive enough to kick ass as an offensive lineman. But I would win leverage, and my feet would be good. My sets would look good. So I think that's where all that stuff comes from.
I've seen you spin in the basketball.
Oh yeah.
You know, I've seen it all, man. I know. That's my warehouse games kind of observation.
Yeah.
Pennick's a better athlete and he gets credit for.
Well, I'll give a little spoiler. Hopefully none of my bosses are listening. I may be involved. This is coming out early April. I'm going to be a little bit more involved in the warehouse games, so get excited for that this year.
It's baseball season. They're not paying attention.
They're not listening at the 50-some minute mark of the quarterback draft preview podcast.
We're talking about Riley Leonard's ability to create from the pocket.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's really going to get him.
That's really going to get, Riley Leonard. People are going to pull up Riley Leonard from Duke and really get excited about another white guy from Duke.
Oh, and by the way, all Giants fans that compared him to like Daniel Jones, it's like he couldn't be any more opposite than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones doesn't throw over the middle and like has no pocket feel, and Riley Leonard does throw over the middle and has pocket feel. I get it. They're both white guys that are good athletes. I get it, but they couldn't be any more opposite.
Nate, thank you
Justin.
for hopping on. Hey, well, I may have to get you back on by the time the season starts in this summer while things are slow, so we could talk about this QB room. I know you got feelings on this team and stuff like that. We both do. We were talking about it before, but thank you for coming on, man. Appreciate you. Plug whatever you want to plug.
Oh yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, love to come on whenever you want me, Justin. I still want to talk. Say sweet things about the Giants defense. I say that I still have some Riley Leonard stock. I still have some Giants defense stock, and
I love it.
And I'm feeling a little better about it after some of their signings too. But yeah, Football 301. We got some positional previews. I think we're doing linebackers and DBs today, but actually doing our quarterback deep dive. I got Dane Brugler coming on from The Athletic on Thursday, and then, whenever this comes out, Thursday, April 3rd, I think it is. And then, check out my stuff on Yahoo. Got some writing, updated big board next week. Just we're a month away. Just get me through the draft.
Yeah. Amen.
We're almost there. One more month.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Nate.
Thanks, Jaxon.
All right, again, thank you to Nate Tice for coming on the show and joining me. Make sure you give him a follow. Make sure that you thank him for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Appreciate everybody, like I said, that's still here, that's sticking with what we're doing. We're going to crush draft month. We're going to have a lot of fun. Like I said, it's my goal this Friday to get a Giants-only mock draft out. They don't have 1 million picks, so I should be able to do it. I have an idea of what they're going to do with 3. There's some players that fell to 36 that I'm a little surprised by. There's a mock draft that I did that I like, but I may switch it up a little bit. We'll see. And until then, appreciate you. We'll see you on Friday.